I think the Iranian people, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, completely trust and believe in Donald Trump.
Welcome to the Tara Palmeri Show. Overnight, Iran chose a new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. He's the son of the country's former supreme leader, and many fear he could prove even more hardline and dangerous than his father, which raises a very critical question. If Iran's leadership is doubling down, can the U.S. afford to pull out now just because gas prices are rising at home and it's becoming very politically unpopular to be involved in a foreign war? My next guest says, absolutely not.
There was, of course, many people saying, I can't take my kid to the doctor. The air is filled with smoke. Even those people didn't say stop. Imagine being bombarded and you're screaming, no ceasefire.
Moj Mahdara is an Iranian-American entrepreneur, investor, and activist. She's a former CEO of Beautycon and has held senior positions at Condé Nast, Mindshare, and Hearst. She's also a prominent voice and advocate for human rights and a democratic form of government in Iran. We're going to talk about all of that and more and whether that's possible. She's also the founding member of the Iranian Diaspora Collective. Moj, thanks so much for joining the show. There's so much to discuss this weekend now that Iran has a new supreme leader in the sun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. So we have Mojtaba, similar name, Khamenei, who is the son of the former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. And, you know, President Trump has said he's not acceptable, that his reign won't last long. What do you think of Mojtaba and the new leader?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. I think, this is like an incredibly painful, complicated, surreal, also exhilarating time, if that can make any sense to people who are not Iranians. We're Iranians, or if you know us right now, we're kind of weird. We're half happy, half anxiety, half crying, half jubilated. It's so emotionally unregulated. Mojtaba is terrifying. This is like the worst outcome for the Iranian people and the American people, in my opinion. He is a younger, more equipped Ali Khamenei. He is in his mid-50s. He's extremely close to the IRGC. In fact, it's been said that he's been directing the IRGC since about 2009. So that means he directed the IRGC through the Green Movement. He directed the IRGC through the 2019 massacre and uprising. A few thousand people were killed in 2019. And then 2022, famously, Mahsa Amini, where they killed a young Kurdish woman. And the country rose in outrage. Hundreds of people, thousands of people were murdered and disappeared. And then obviously this last massacre, according to the U.S. numbers, we can cite 36,000. According to people in the country, the numbers are, north of 50. Another 50,000 in prison and 80 some odd thousand injured. And so he's terrible for us. He's terrible for everybody. He's very, very, very ideologically religious. He is very focused on a continuation of what Iranians call Khomeinism, which is a real break from traditional Islam or the Muslim faith, which is this belief that there's a 12th imam that returns, when the Islamic Republic is able to conquer Jerusalem, which is like why they're so obsessed with spreading their ideology from Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Gaza to Palestine. And so, this is not good news for everybody. And I hope he is short-lived and the last supreme leader of the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. I have been around Persian friends this weekend who also feel all sorts of feelings of hope, but were very much disappointed by this news. So should we expect anything different? You're saying it could be more oppressive, more brutal?
I think it will be. I think if the Islamic Republic was going to pivot towards reform, this would have been the best way to signal that that was their choice. But this is their signal that they will die fighting and they will take their people down with them. And so this is very bad news for the Iranian people. And I also hear people saying that this is an outcome of America attacking Iran. He was always going to be the next supreme leader. I think people should rest well knowing that Israeli and American government have done nothing to create this. He was always going to be the next supreme leader. It's been said and rumored, and he has been groomed for this. So there's no world. I mean, the only other person I think they were considering was Khomeini's grandson. So I mean, like, we're not. this is not. This is not. It's not like they were going to choose some sweet, nice imam from a mosque who, is here to move forward human rights and resolve the grieving sort of country. They chose hardliners. Their only choices were hardliners, and unfortunately, this hardliner also has an intense ability to direct the military, which, in the past, Khamenei was never, that hand-in-hand combat. But I think his son will be.
Yeah. No, it's so we should be actually gearing up for an oppressive regime if he can survive. I mean, there is obviously a chance that he'll be assassinated like his father. So I guess for me, I'm wondering, how important is it that Trump win over the support of the Iranian people to, perhaps foment a coup or help them choose their next leader? I mean, is there a way to create democracy with Mojtaba there, or does he need to be assassinated? What's your thinking on that?
Well, I think the Iranian people, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, completely trust and believe in Donald Trump.
Oh, wow.
They see him as their only hope. I know this is so crazy to say for someone
Not really.
like me.
I mean, I think if you're in a desperate situation, that makes sense.
He's the only president that has done something to actually hurt the regime. Everyone else has helped the regime. Joe Biden helped the regime. President Obama helped the regime. George Bush supported Saddam Hussein, which ultimately, in a lot of ways, without the Iraq War, the regime would have never survived that first decade. So as far as the Iranians are concerned, he's the only president who has ever done anything to help the Iranian people, because every other president has not even acknowledged the suffering and oppression of the Iranian people. In fact, they've whitewashed it so that they could make their deals, whether it was JCPOA or, Joe Biden sent billions of dollars to Iran and Iraq to continue to support their energy needs. And so Iranian people, whether Americans like it or not, whether I like it or not, they are in strong, they have conviction and hope for Donald Trump that he comes through for them, because they believe him when they say that help is on the way. So this is a tragic situation, because you either heed to the request of the Iranian people right now, which is, I think I put it up on my stories. I had hundreds of people reach out to me to say, begging that the American government, Israel, not stop. Even with the oil fires, even with the fear of bombardment. There was, of course, many people saying, I can't take my kid to the doctor. The air is filled with smoke. Even those people didn't say stop. They said, what if it doesn't change? Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah. No.
Imagine being bombarded and you're screaming, no ceasefire.
It's another level of desperation. I can't even imagine. Do you have family there in Iran still?
I do. Yesterday, I had one of the most surreal moments of my life, where there's an activist on the ground that we support, and we with a couple of their people, we've secured some Starlinks, and my mom is in her mid-70s and been having a complete meltdown because my aunt's kids, my aunt passed away a few months ago, and my aunt's kids, who are pretty much like my sisters, we can't reach them, and none of, we can't reach her two older sisters. We can't reach any of our cousins. We can't reach anybody. My aunt's wife just went back a couple months ago. So I called my mom, and then I was able to reach my friend via Starlink in Tehran. And then my friend patched in my cousin. And we had to, in order for him to connect us, they had to believe that he wasn't regime and that he knows us. So we had to tell him all the things that my aunt loves, even though she's dead, like apple pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. And then when he connected them, it was like the most awful crying I've ever heard in my life. It was choppy and broken up, but it was like desperate for both parties, like my mom and my cousins, to make sure that each other was okay, because my cousins are terrified that my mom is going to like have a heart attack out of concern, and my mom is terrified that them and their baby and everyone else is in harm's way. And so it reminded me of every single phone call I've listened to from my parents to my home country since I was a kid, because first it was with payphones, then it was with calling cards, and it's always been, if immigrants, they talk really loud on the phone out of habit, because
Yes.
it's like, they'll be like, hello, hello, like, and it's like always like so loud, even with a VPN and Wi-Fi, and it's like in them. And so listening to my mother calling to them like as if she's still on a dial-up, it was just gutting yesterday. Like, I just wondered what I would say to people when they ask me, like, how was your weekend? And I'd be like, good. Like, but like, no, like not good. So yeah, we have a lot of family there. So this is personal for us.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Me too.
Sounds really, really, really stressful.
Very stressful. Yeah.
Does your
So all
family?
we can do is bank. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just asking if they supported Reza Pahlavi, the former son of the Shah.
They very much do. They very much do. They believe he's the only transitional leader that is out there. They're counting on him to partner with on the ground coalitions and leaders. I think we have a real issue right now where we need America to do a couple of things. And if I was speaking to the president, my ask of him would be to first and foremost be extremely careful with his words. When he talks about compromising territorial integrity, when Lindsey Graham talks about bombing the shit out of the Iranian people, they need to be very mindful that they are talking to a scared public that trusts them. They need to be talking to those people as if they are in care of them. They need to not be hitting any civilian locations. Whether that school girl, the school that was hit was, whether or not it was on an IRGC military base or adjacent, it's irrelevant. We need to be extremely careful right now with the trust of the Iranian people. We need to restore the internet. Elon Musk needs to call direct. He needs to activate that. People have been asking, begging him to do this. Thousands of Iranians I know have emailed him. People I know personally have asked him. Elon Musk needs to activate the internet for the Iranian people so that they can report on this themselves. We need to stop talking about war and start declaring that we're in a transition of regime leadership and announcing that we support Reza Pahlavi and that we are going to free political prisoners, because the people who are going to write the next constitution of Iran are inside those prisons. Whether it's Nasrin Sotoudeh or Narges Mohammadi, there are many Nobel Peace Prize winner and laureates, people who have been credited worldwide for their academic work in constitutional law and human rights. Those people, imagine if Ruth Ginsburg was in prison today. These people need to be freed. They are absolutely capable to work with Reza Pahlavi to really form a coalition of transition. He is the leader. That is who the Iranian people trust. That's who they died for. And the American government has an obligation at this point to responsibility to protect. And at this point, I believe anything less than regime change is one of the most negligent things that the American government will have ever done. They have to see through this transition, leaving the Iranian people in the hands of a more extreme supreme leader and a military that is going to unleash all of their fury all over their people is beyond unacceptable and unforgivable.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is not in support of Reza, though. He does not think he's an acceptable leader. What do you think about that? Is that concerning to the people who do support him?
I think it's supporting, but who knows with President Trump? We never know what he thinks or what he's going to do. And I think it's less important about what he believes and more important about what the Iranian people believe. Maybe he has an issue with someone that doesn't want to take control as much as he would like. But the reality is Iranians are very paranoid of any type of dictatorship in this moment. And so they do need a leader that is engendering trust. he doesn't, they don't, the Syrian leader wouldn't work right now. The crown prince of Saudi Arabia, has engendered a lot of trust with his people. So there's this confidence there. What we need is a trust building exercise for the Iranian people, because what they're terrified of is something more extreme. And so I think he's the best person because he has a coalition with all of the international community at this point. Whether or not they support him, they know him, they understand the Iranian Prosperity Project. We know what that plan is. We understand the logistics. He's met with Steve Witkoff. I think America needs to take control of the situation and stop acting like we're not the big kid on the campus here. We are. We are in control of, military supremacy around the world. We are economic supremacy around the world. And I think right now, our negligence to take control in this region and just simply step forward policy. I think what we've done in the Gulf states is probably correct, where we have really had a strong hand getting them beyond this 9/11 moment, whether that was bringing forward economic stability, military stability. And, if you look at the amount of expats in those countries right now, it's outstanding, right? And so I think America has to take on bringing that same energy to Iran now. Because if Iran does not get stabilization from the West, it is going to get control from China and Russia. I think, unfortunately, American people maybe don't know enough about geopolitics, but this is really about China, Russia. Without Iran, there is no Ukraine war. And I think it is one of the most, when I hear Democrats protesting this war, it boggles my brain. Not because we should support war, but because we should support transition and regime change. And the Democrats, myself included, because I have to take responsibility for myself, I was a part of that. We brought this on. And so at this point, we cannot embolden China. I think Taiwan will be gone in a matter of 12 months if we do not push for regime change. And so at this point, either America becomes an ally to the West, or Iran becomes an ally to the West. Same with, UAE, Dubai, Qatar, right? We need that allyship. Or they become a even deeper, bigger partner to Russia and China. And I don't think we can afford to do that. This isn't some small country. This is a huge country with a lot of resources. And if we leave them without regime change, those 92 million people, they will go back to despising the United States of America. They will never forgive us.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, there are 90 million people in Iran. This is not like going into Venezuela and taking out Maduro and then replacing him with Delcy Rodriguez, who is obviously still part of the same regime, but more willing to work with the U.S. This is much more difficult.
She's willing to praise the U.S. She's willing to stand with diplomatic, our diplomats. I think the reality, and when people say it's not Venezuela, that's right. We're talking about a religious ideology here. This is a political, religious. Venezuela doesn't have a call to end Israel and end America. They don't chant that in schools. Iran does. And I think people laugh this off and they think it's not serious. It's serious. Yeah. It's an actual serious thing. Cannot have a country of that magnitude irresponsibly out there as an open asset. Has to be partners. And when people talk about exploitation, America wants to exploit the oil. But you would rather have China and Russia exploit the oil? Yeah. Make it make sense. Make it make sense why you would rather have 55% of that oil going to China for cheap, like at $30 a barrel. I don't think people fundamentally understand, whether Iranians want to or not. When you grow up in the West, these are the things you learn about at the dinner table.
So I mean, you're obviously aware of this. Political tides, they decide wars, and the American people don't have a strong appetite for a war in the Middle East. And this war seems to be expanding every day. President Trump says it could be weeks until it's over. He's suggesting that he's going to put troops on the ground. Intelligence reports say the only way to actually get to the uranium reserves and to destroy the nuclear program is to actually have boots on the ground. He's also warning that there could be counterstrikes in the U.S., that we could face, acts of terrorism. People are fatigued from the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. We are seeing rising oil prices, surging past $100 a barrel. I mean, I think they said last week that gas prices are up 27 cents since then. Trump says people just need to suck it up. Doesn't matter. It'll be temporary. I think Trump sees it like you do, but I also think he is very sensitive to political impact. And obviously, we're heading into the midterm elections. Are you concerned that the American people are turning on the war and they don't want this, and Trump will pull out quickly and it will leave Iran in possibly an even more precarious position than it was in before he entered?
I think as an American, we're always worried about war.
Right.
The last thing we ever want to do is send our troops in harm's way. I think that feels more serious to me as an adult than it ever has in my life. Gives me a lot of sorrow to think that any troops would put themselves in harm's way. I think about the 6 or 7 service members that have been lost already, and my heart breaks for them and their families. I think that the 15% oil spike right now is a temporary outcome. I think that that's more about the markets than about reserves. I think that tells you all the more reason on why we need stability in this region, that this country has been wreaking havoc across Iraq. 500,000 people dead in Syria. Think about all those drone strikes Barack Obama approved. Think about what's gone on in Palestine. Think about all of those people and lives lost because of this group. This group. I blame this group. And so in my mind, the Democrats have kicked this can down the road for decades. It has hurt American policy worldwide. It's hurt us with China. It's hurt us with Ukraine and Russia. I don't believe we would be here we would not have shipped billions to Ukraine if Iran was not defending Russia and sending over all those drones, right? So I think we have a terrible situation where, the bill has to now be paid. People want to say it's on Trump. I say it's on every president before Trump. Every single president had a hand in this. I don't love saying that he's the only president that's taken a hard stance on this situation, but he is. And I think at this point, we have an impossible decision. We either protect midterms and political, outcomes, or we do the right thing and push for a regime change. And if the Democrats continue to say absolutely no support for regime change, no support for the Iranian people, this is about, everything else but that, I think there's some of us that will never forgive them. And I think maybe they just think that's collateral damage, and so be it. But I think for American people, Donald Trump, President Trump, he needs to do a better job of messaging really what this is about. Instead of saying this is about taking nuclear and ballistics, he needs to simply just acknowledge we're pushing for regime change. We didn't push for it in Venezuela because we got what we needed. We had a cooperative leadership. They're not religiously ideological. They are ceasing to do business with China and Iran because, again, I don't think Americans understand Venezuela is who provides all of natural resources to, or not all of, but a majority of their resources to China and Russia. So by influencing Venezuela and Iran, we are, for all intents and purposes, impacting and controlling our China-Russia issue in a lot of ways. And so without going to war with them, which I think would be eons worse than going to war with Iran. I think rather than being a war with Iran, we need to immediately demand regime change. Americans like us requested the responsibility to protect, which the UN could have enacted for the Iranian people, but they didn't. I think people have to look at all of the failed ways and all of the failed policies, all of the ways in which American governments have failed the Iranian people, and people think, why are those people my responsibility? Well, what is our responsibility is stability of energy, stability of war, stability of conflicts around the world. And I think when you're the United States government, you have to assume that is our role within the global stage. We have to bring stability to the world. We can't let tyranny and dictatorships kind of take over beyond their borders. And I think Iran brought this on themselves the moment the Islamic Republic decided to start dominating the region versus just staying within their own borders. I think they instigated this themselves. The Iranian people see this 100% brought on by the Islamic Republic. They don't see it as Israel attacking Iran. They don't see it that way.
Well, I think a lot of Americans also say that we've never really been great at regime change, particularly in the Middle East. Ro Khanna pointed out that this war will cost $1 billion per week. And, if it goes on for 50 weeks, $50 billion, that he said that could actually provide free college tuition for all Americans, which is like, it's a substantial amount of money. I mean, it's a big sacrifice to be making. And I know you're saying there are broader geopolitical implications. It makes us ultimately safer. A lot of those same arguments were made before we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think a lot of Americans feel betrayed by those assessments. So
we should, and I think we should be. And I know I do too. I think one of the things that I think a lot about when I hear this conversation about Iraq and Afghanistan, because I've thought at length about this, is one of the things that gives me comfort is that every single person that was sort of involved in that conflict, I know firsthand, especially from the military side, has been brought in to consult on what went wrong and really having conversations around what it can be different. I think that, America's known for our entrepreneurship. I'm not one to believe that we stop trying when we've had failures. We have had successes in other places. We think about the end of World War II, where we got involved and we were able to overturn Hitler. A lot of people always talk about like the failures. I think that we did not have partnership in the Gulf states. We did not have the Israeli intelligence. There's a lot going for us in this moment. I think it is incredibly short-sighted of, Congressman Borgana to talk about these things when he's clearly just vying for votes, right? He's super duper duper going with the sort of very liberal playbook right now. And I'm hearing multiple Democrats do it, talking about, the end of supporting Israel, that these are not our wars. And so it's very interesting to see like the Democrats all of a sudden become isolationists, and then the Republicans talking about like global impact and global, the global stage. It's super confusing right now. I don't think diplomacy has done anything for the American people with Iran. We sent $100 billion from Barack Obama, JCPOA to Iran. Joe Biden released another $10 billion in his last administration, days after October 7th. We spent how many billions of dollars to the Ukraine? How many billions of dollars to Israel? All of this is because of instability. What is the instability of that region? Dictatorships, theocracies, Islamic extremism. We call it Khomeinism, but it is a deeply, deeply anti-Western belief, and it's militarized. And so at this point, we could either have with Iran what we have with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, or Jordan, right? Egypt, which is allyship, a relationship, a business partnership, or we can continue to have a partner in the, a party in the Middle East that is causing destabilization for all of our allies, and we're constantly having to foot the bill for that destabilization. And so I think, again, Democrats need to just own it. I would respect them so much more if they could say the Iraq war was wrong, the war in Afghanistan was wrong, the JCPOA was wrong, Jimmy Carter was wrong, but they don't say that. They just say other people's parts. And so I don't trust them when they can't own their own shortcomings. They didn't do anything during the Green Movement. They didn't do they could have, regime change could have had right then and there. And in the middle of that movement, Hillary Clinton's gone on record to say this. We had a moment to push and we didn't. So Democrats, if they want people to trust them, if they want their own party to trust them, which my text messages are filled with Democrats who are ejecting from the party over this, not because they want us to go to war, but because of the lies that they're telling the public.
Yeah.
They are not owning their own responsibility in this. They want to say that these wars were devastating. They were. And so was the JCPOA. How much 15,000 drone strikes were launched under Barack Obama in Syria. Tens of thousands of people are in mass graves because of him.
Yeah. I mean, there are
Do American people know that?
Yeah. I think.
Say again?
I do think, though, I was going to add that there are Republicans. I mean, a lot of the online right, and there's obviously Thomas Massey and a few others who are also opposed to the war, although a lot of them are. There was a vote last week that failed against the war. I do want to.
But I want to be clear. I think everyone wants to be against the war, and I think we are against the war. I think what we want is regime change, and we want to immediately stop the bombardment, finish the military sites, and push for regime change. I think it's disingenuous for the U.S. government to say this is anything other than regime change.
But then how
realistic? And when they say the change,
how long does that
it's just
take? How long do you think it takes?
I don't know. I
And
think
how
that if
long do you think
Israel wanted to
Americans
essentially,
how long do you think Americans should stick with it until they see regime change?
I think that the Israeli intelligence could essentially, it's given what I've seen of taking out the supreme leader within the first 12 hours, they seem to know exactly where these targets are.
So you think
I
they
think
just
they're hesitating.
keep taking out one after another after another after another, and then let the dominoes
I
fall,
think if they wanted to
basically?
turn on the internet now, I think if they wanted to open up Evin prison now, I think if they wanted to bring forward transitional leadership now, they have the resources to do that. And my question for them is, why aren't you doing it?
How long do you predict this will go on? This war will last?
I think given the American sentiment and midterms, I think it's a matter of weeks. It better be, because I don't think the American people will tolerate more than that.
Yeah. What are you looking for in the
I,
next 48 to 72 hours?
I would like them to open up Evin prison and get those political prisoners out. And I would like Elon Musk to get the internet on. And I would like Senator Lindsey Graham and everyone else in this administration to start messaging regime change and protection of civilian life. Because in this moment, for the American people and the Iranian people to continue trusting them, they need to now take responsibility for not what they started, because I don't see them as they started this, but they need to finish it responsibly in a way that the American people are not ashamed and the Iranian people are not left with a destroyed country and a regime still intact to continue their oppression and make it even worse.
Yeah. Wow, Moj, thank you so much for your time. This was fascinating. I feel like we all learned a lot with this conversation, and
Such a hard conversation.
yeah, it is. I
Such
think
a hard.
it's hard. I think everyone understands and they feel a huge amount of sympathy and pain for the Iranian people, and they see the destruction that the regime causes and could cause to us. I just think it is hard as an American to buy into another war, and it's frightening. I mean, the fact that we don't know who bombed a location outside of the Oslo American embassy in Oslo, it just feels like we're heading into World War III. Just every day, this seems to become more and more expansive.
I would really argue that we've been in World War III. I think World War III looks like an information war. I think this concept of bombing World War III is not. I think what you've seen in ideology, rhetoric, sentiment against American people, I think World War III is much more of a information war. And as an American, I've been extremely concerned about it. And this is, I mean, listen, I'm coming from like a left, moderate, progressive perspective here, right? But I noticed something present within our country that I did not notice a decade ago. So I think we need to stop. Again, I think we need to not, politicians are trying to win elections. I think everyone needs to remember that. I don't know that they're always looking out for our best interests, but I think they're always trying to win elections. And I think in this moment, it's incredibly complicated to think about putting U.S. troops in harm's way, U.S. dollars into conflict. But I think if you look at the analysis, the world's a better place, and America is for sure a better place without this regime intact.
Thank you so much for your time, and I wish
you
and your family all the best.
Such a huge fan of your work. I'm really, really grateful to be here. Thank you for making the time.
Of course, no, we're very, very lucky to have you, and best of luck with everything, and keep us posted.
Thank you.
On your family.
Thank you.
That was another episode of the Tara Palmeri Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe. Just hit that button, follow, like. That's how you keep me in business. Please go to tarapalmeri.com, sign up for my newsletter, The Red Letter, and become a supporter of my independent journalism by becoming a paid subscriber. It's a way to get my exclusive reporting straight to your inbox. Guys, I don't want to mention it, but it's my 1-year anniversary of going independent as a journalist. And I am so happy to be here. It has been quite the journey. And I'm so glad you have been with me, some of you, the entire way. So thanks for all that you do, the comments, the emails you send me, the tips, the support. It really means so much to me. We've been through a lot together. And of course, for all of you who are new, please hit that subscribe button. It means a ton to me. And see you again soon. But first, I want to thank my producer, Dan Schiffmacher, Abby Baker, who does my social media and research and booking, and Adam Stewart on the graphics, Dan Rosen, management. See you again.